Hey, what's up guys? There's a lot of hype around Guild Wars 2's new expansion, Secrets of the Obscure, and it's got a lot of the big name creators talking about some of the issues that this expansion might be able to fix. But in this video today, I actually want to talk about 5 issues that I think only a Guild Wars 3 could fix. And man, would I love to see ArenaNet go all in on a Guild Wars 3. As risky as it may be, let's talk about some of the issues that a Guild Wars 3 could fix. I'm just going to start off with what I think the biggest issue that Guild Wars 3 could solve, and that is a second chance at a first impression. We all know that Guild Wars had a lot of issues with Living World Season 1. They were trying to take a new approach and make a living, breathing world. So there's a couple issues I want to talk about with Living World Season 1. The first is the content cadence. They had some very ambitious ideas and goals. ArenaNet really wanted to turn and churn that content really fast. However, I think they quickly realized that getting content out maybe every couple weeks, every 2 weeks, every month, it was just too difficult. They didn't have the manpower and it was just never going to work in the long run. The second issue is that they wanted the world to live and breathe and change. And so you would have an event that came today and was gone tomorrow, right? I'm remembering the Karka invasion, right? You know, you had to be there for that event. And if you missed it, well, too bad. And the world was changed after that. And so you felt like you couldn't partake. And I feel like after that set of events with Living World Season 1, there was an exodus of a lot of players. And 10 years later, those players still have that same image in their mind about Guild Wars 2. And luckily, you've seen some big name creators and just players in general come back to realize how good of a game Guild Wars 2 is. But Guild Wars 2 needs a second chance at a first impression. And I believe Guild Wars 3 would give them that opportunity. I mean, think about it. 10 years of ArenaNet learning and deciding what type of content they want to make. I just think they would be able to put the formula together in a new cohesive package now that they have a grip on how to make an MMO, but an MMO that is different from the current MMOs out there. Yes, let's get a new first impression for ArenaNet and Guild Wars 3. The second issue that I think a Guild Wars 3 could fix has more to do with the development of the game. I know it's a long time ago, but if we go back, when Guild Wars 2 was originally being made, it was kind of being developed as this hardcore PvP game, right? They had esports involved in Conquest 5v5 mode. World v World was going to be massive, and maybe the feature that separated Guild Wars 2 and set it apart from a lot of the other games at the time. And a lot of this focus was being put into PvP and the competitive nature of the game, right down to the very combat itself. However, there was a switch that was flipped sometime during development, and they decided to start focusing a little more on story and open world. So I feel like there's this unresolved tension between the two development styles that occurred during the making of Guild Wars 2. You have this combat system and dodge mechanics and this hardcore PvP game modes that were created, but then you also have this side of the game that is amazingly casual friendly with some of the best open world content, probably the best open world content in any MMO. I feel like these two things have been at odds with each other the whole time. Now, what could happen in Guild Wars 3? Well, I believe Guild Wars 3 needs to be made with the casual in mind. And I'm not saying there can't be, of course, challenge mode raids and World v World and PvP, but I think if you have a cohesive idea about how you want development to go from the very beginning, it's going to make the systems, the combat, every level of the game just that much more cohesive. And I feel like you'll be able to now remove that tension that happened during development between wanting the game to be a hardcore PvP game and then the switch to a more casual friendly open world game. That is something that I think only a Guild Wars 3 could fix at this point. Okay, so this next one is a really easy fix that ArenaNet could use Guild Wars 3 to solve. And what is this issue and what did ArenaNet do? Well, in ArenaNet's pursuit to make Guild Wars 2 stand out from the crowd so much and to be new, they came up with their own nomenclature or this vocabulary around these MMO terms that people have known for decades. And what is that? So instead of calling buffs, they've named them boons. Same with debuffs, you have conditions. Along with that, a lot of the stats We're not given normal names that we're used to seeing in MMOs, such as, for example, instead of crit, you have precision. And so I think the issue is with veteran MMO players. So I'll give you a quick example. I have two friends. One friend, I got into Guild Wars 2 when it first launched. It was his very first MMO. So to him, there was no issue because everything that Guild Wars had done was new to him. He didn't know what crit meant, but he knew what precision meant. So he didn't have an issue with any of the vocabulary in the game because it was all new to him. Since then, I've tried to get him into other MMOs, and he is having a hard time understanding what us as veteran MMO players have known and understood from the very beginning. On the other hand, I have a friend who is a WoW veteran, and every time I've tried to get him in the game, this is always an issue, the vocabulary that Guild Wars 2 uses. It's just a hindrance. It's something that keeps some MMO veterans away. And I think in ArenaNet's zealousness to make Guild Wars 2 something so unique and different, they just went a step too far in some areas. And I think the vocabulary, the nomenclature of how things are named in the game could make a return to a more traditional MMO style. And I think that would invite a lot more players in. And I think a Guild Wars 3 could give them a chance to right this wrong. The next issue that a Guild Wars 3 could solve has to do with combat. Now, what do I mean? Well, in general, with almost every MMO out there across the board, you as a player are responsible for your damage or your healing output. In many traditional MMOs, we'll just use World of Warcraft as an example, you have your big cooldowns that will increase your crit chance or the damage dealt. And so you are solely responsible for those things. However, in Guild Wars 2, many times your success depends on the boons or the buffs that your group or other players can provide to you while you're doing the content. And that case is true whether you're in a PvP match, whether you're doing strike CMs or even fractals. And again, this is just one of those things that I think really makes it tough for new players to Guild Wars 2 to wrap their minds around because it's so different than what they're used to playing. The combat in Guild Wars 2 is just about boon uptime or buff uptime, and that is the meta game or the mini game within combat that you're trying to play, instead of simply hitting your damaging abilities that feel good to hit to do damage to an enemy. And so this mini game or meta game of buff uptime or boon uptime is just very foreign to other players, and it creates another barrier of entry or a level of knowledge that you have to get over in order to excel in Guild Wars 2. I think a Guild Wars 3 could return to a combat style and system that is less about boon uptime and more about the player managing their own boons, their own buffs, and of course their damaging abilities. I think a secondary issue of this meta game of combat of boon uptime ruins is, to an extent, class identity or play style of what you might want to play. So for example, in Guild Wars 2, instead of picking out what class you want to do, you need to figure out what role you're providing. What boons or buffs are you providing with your build? Instead of thinking of, oh, I just want to be a longbow ranger that does damage, I have to worry about, okay, I can't just do that because my group needs certain buffs that I need to provide. So do I need to go druid? Do I need to provide alacrity? Do I need to provide quickness? In a game like World of Warcraft, what of the classes out there fits my playstyle? And since there's only a few specs, I pick the spec that fits my playstyle best, and I can perform that role, and it's fun, and I know exactly what I'm getting into. However, in Guild Wars, it's just not that simple. So I think Guild Wars 3 could solve this problem by putting the boons and buffs back in the hands of the individual player themselves. I think it would just make the combat much more simple, much easier to grasp, and I think it would be inviting to MMO veterans from all different games. This last one is not going to be popular, and I don't even know if I like it. But so of course I tune in to all the big Guild Wars 2 content creators, from Teapot to Bloom, which is one of my favorites. And a lot of times I hear these guys talking about rewards, right? They wish they could run a fractal and get a drop, make it exciting, you get something from it. Or I know another big issue, of course, is mount skins, right? And of course there was this huge applause when players found out that you were going to be able to obtain a mount skin in Secrets of the Obscure, the new expansion coming up, which is something that we rarely get to do. And there's a couple reasons why I think this is frustrating for players, because many players are reward driven, but since Guild Wars 2 is a buy-to-play game, a lot of the cool cosmetics are of course locked behind the gem store. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that you can earn in game, but most of the really cool things are in Black Lion chests or in the gem store. So what could ArenaNet do? I don't think that most of you guys are gonna like this. Like I said, I don't even know if I do, but you could go to a vertical gear progression system. Do they have to make it as grindy as World of Warcraft or other games? Of course not. ArenaNet is the best at removing pain points from other MMOs. So do I think they could do a vertical gear progression game and still make it fun and enjoyable for casuals? I do believe they could do that. But this would also give ArenaNet the chance to put so many cool, awesome rewards behind fractal drops or raids or whatever they wanted to do. And I think this would solve a lot of the problems with rewards that we currently have in Guild Wars 2. Alright guys, don't roast me too hard in the comments. I feel like these are just a few problems that I don't think Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet are ever going to be able to address. And I do think a Guild Wars 3 could give ArenaNet a second chance to just perfect all the things they've learned over the past 10 years, make the perfect game that they want to make, and it would just give them that second chance at the first impression that Guild Wars 2 always deserved. And I think a Guild Wars 3 would just give them that chance. The eyes of the MMO world would return to ArenaNet and a Guild Wars 3. But that's just my opinion. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I crazy? Is Guild Wars 3 too risky? And could they solve some of these issues without doing a Guild Wars 3? I don't know. I don't think so, but let me know. But guys, thank you for sticking around. Give me a like and a sub if you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back with more Guild Wars 2 coverage soon in Secrets of the Obscure. Later, guys.